Hello guys, I'm Yash, and in this video we are going to learn about use memo hook. Like in the last video, I made a video about use callback, and I told you that I'll be making a video on use memo as well. And let's jump into it. You can see I've already written some amount of code, just to save time. Okay, so before going into use memo, let me first walk you through with the code that I've written. Okay, so you can see that I have a component called app.js, which is the single most component. And what this is doing is basically it has two states. The first is num and another one is a pop-up, and num is basically number. So in the JSX you can see that okay, just leave this part because this is basically a modal or a pop-up. And inside my this div I have an input which is taking some number, and it is then rendering a new number which is calculated by this complex function. And why it is complex function, because I have a for loop which goes from 1 to this big number, and it basically just simply adds 1 to it. Okay, all right. So then I have a set num setter, which basically takes the e dot target dot value, and then it pass it to make it an integer, and then it sets the value of num, and then sum is passed, sum is rendered down here. So you can see in the web, you can see this is the input field, and this is where the number is being rendered out, right? So whatever I will type, it will be added in that number, right? So the another state is the pop-up, and I have a function, I have a method, a setter method, which is set pop-up. So so you can see the button here which says open up, and I have an on click on it which is open pop-up, and when I click on it, it basically toggles the value of my pop-up, right? So pop-up has a value of false by default, but when I click on open pop-up, it basically toggles it, right? So first time it is false, and then if I click on it, it turns into true, and that's how it goes, right? So the purpose of this is that you can see this function which basically making this number, creating this number, is a very complex number because it has so many iterations, right? You can see that it goes from 0 to all the way to this number, and then it just adds 1 on it. Okay, so the problem with this thing is, if I type 1 over here, okay, I've typed it, and you can see there is a delay, significant delay. If I again press 2, now you can see that the delay is a lot, the significant delay. Okay, that is fine because our function is complex, but you can see when I open this up, when I click on open up button, then I have a modal which will show up, and if I click, see, I'm clicking on it, 1 2 3, it takes about 1.5 seconds to open this pop-up. And same with the close, if I go and close it, it takes the same amount to close it. And that's the problem with it, because this function is so heavy or so CPU intensive that it is making my program or making my application lag. Okay, so now you might be wondering why this is happening. Okay, so this is happening because I have two states. See, first is num, and when I type something, then my num state updates, right? I mean, that's a no-brainer. Again, and then I have a different state which is pop-up, but when I click on it, right, so my pop-up state is being changed, right? So when my state change, and we all know that when a state is changed, my application re-renders itself, right? And when we are rendering it, when we are re-rendering it, then the return value of this function is being recalculated again and again, even though the number is same. But my the React is trying to just know what is the value of this complex function, or what is the value that the complex function returns, right? Even if the number is same, React doesn't know it, so we have to tell React somehow only recalculate this function, the complex function's return value, not the function's value, just the return value, when only when the number is changing, right? Because the number is my state, and I want to tell React that whenever my state is changing or whenever the value number is changing, only then calculate this function. You don't have to calculate it every time my function is or my component is rendered on the screen. And that's the problem we are going to solve with useMemo hook. Okay, so let me first import useMemo, right? And then what I'm going to do is I am going to wrap this see, I'm calling this, this is where my complex function is returning a value, right? So what I'll do is I'll simply wrap this function with a pair of parentheses and then useMemo, and then just like we wrap it inside a curly inside use effect, right? That's how we write use effect. And in the second argument, you see the first argument is the value returned with the complex function, and the second value should be array of dependency. Okay, and what I want is I want my complex function, I want React to calculate my complex functions value only when my number, which is the parameter, whenever the number is changing, whenever the num is changing, only then I want my complex functions to I want React to calculate the return value, because that's when I'll get a new value, right? If I hit save, and see, I'm not saying that if I type 1 it will be faster. No, it won't be faster, because my function itself is complex, right? So the time it takes to calculate this number, this new rendered number, it will be exactly same, right? Okay, so you can see that if I press 1, if I press 2, it takes that the exact amount of time which it was taking before useMemo. But the difference is with the pop-up, right? If I click on open up, you see how fast it is. And this is happening because when I'm toggling this value, which is my pop-up state, React now is not calculating the return value of complex function. And that is the good part, right? Because now the complexity is limited to this function only, or to this state only, not to the all other state in my component, right? Thank you so much for watching this video. And this one was quite short, because I wanted to keep it that way, because in the last couple of videos, I was realizing it that my videos are getting like 20 minutes and 15 minutes long, and so I tried to make this one shorter. So that's why I wrote the code beforehand. Okay, so thank you so much guys, and I'll see you in the next one.